Welcome to Set of the Lights with Tom, Rob, and Ethan.
Hello. Hiya.
That was
You're
a bit
right.
loud.
Welcome
We're
back.
getting pumped up, mate. This week we're talking about referees, the men that keep the ball rolling,
Bastards in the black.
the
and
bastards
white.
in the black and white. Yeah, just kind of like, they're an integral part of wrestling. Probably overlooked quite a lot.
It's kind of the point, isn't it? I think.
Well, yeah, but when you're looking at the logistics, that's the word I'm looking for.
It's a bit like the opposite of football. Like they always say, a referee's had a really good game if you've not noticed him.
Yeah.
But a referee can make a match if something's happened to him. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
They've been obviously used since the dawn of wrestling, because how else would you tell a winner if there wasn't a referee?
Yeah.
But they've evolved over the years as to what they do and what they don't do. From the early days of, I guess, the 30s, 40s, just being there literally just to make sure,
Just originally used
just to
to
count
just
the pin and
be
that,
there and call
be done.
whatever happens. Yeah.
But
It makes
now,
you wonder how in on the bit the old referees used to be. Like, I'm talking the very early days. Like
well,
on
they'll
Carnival.
know
how
that
in
it
on the
weren't
bit.
legit. They'll know it weren't real.
Well, I mean, you
Well,
never
they
know. They might have
were just there
counted the
to.
pin.
Well, they're just there to count the pin, do the count outs, get the tap out
Yeah.
if there's a submission or something. So they weren't as evolved as it is now. Obviously,
No.
over time, it's now got to the point where they run the match to the
Yeah.
point of they have an earpiece in to get the timings right from the people running the match, in the background, and telling them when to, right now we need to go home and
Yeah.
wrap it up. There was a bit what you could hear on All In where there was like 30 seconds left before they got cut off air, and you can hear the ref say 30 seconds before they had to call the finishing. So
Yeah.
there's a lot more. It's evolved a lot more than just being there as someone to just adjudicate. a
Oh,
match
yeah.
kind of thing.
Kind of
Absolutely.
like a pit chief in racing, or like a co-driver in rally. Like they keep things
Yeah.
on track, they keep things running.
Yeah.
They're really responsible to make sure nobody gets hurt, make sure the match runs to schedule.
Yeah.
And they're also a great plot point as well for storytelling. The amount of times referees have been used in matches to help
Yeah.
branch the story and tell it is just
Yeah, it
countless.
happens a lot.
Yeah.
A heel always uses a referee really well, rather than
Yeah.
a face wrestler won't really have much interaction with the referee unless it's gone against them. But a heel ref is really good to kind of make them sort of interfere with them or distract them or whatever kind of thing.
It's
So.
not a story that's told very much anymore, unfortunately.
No, I mean we were talking earlier, like the sort of earlier days, like the mid-90s, when like Ric Flair in WCW had his own ref
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
looked like him, and then got him a robe, and then they started calling him
Little
Little
Nate.
Nate. And Charles Robinson, still reffing now in WWE as well.
Yeah.
He's still there.
Mhm.
Great
Still
ref.
looks like Nature Boy.
Still does. He's really
Bless
into Wham apparently.
Is there?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's massive George
Massive
Michael
fan.
Does
fan.
he know that Joe
Yeah,
Michael's
yeah.
dead?
I think he does. Yeah. If he's a big Wham fan, I'm guessing he knows.
I think he took the night off.
Did he take
He
a
might have
bereavement?
done,
A
so.
bereavement
Like
day?
I've heard.
Well,
that.
it was Christmas Day though, weren't it? So I doubt they were
Yeah.
wrestling on Christmas Day.
Well,
They were.
it's
Raw was on
WWE.
Christmas Day last year.
Were it?
Hmm?
It wasn't last year that he died though, were it?
No, but I'm just saying it was a Christmas Day.
I just want to know if he took the day off or not. That's
I
the
don't
most
know.
important thing to me.
Maybe.
I like
maybe.
Wham.
Yeah.
What's up with Wham?
Not for me.
Mate, what's that song called? That is like he's singing about having a kid, and he doesn't want the kid.
I can see why he wouldn't want the kid.
I don't know.
Unlikely
like
he'd
you
ever
say,
up in a
you'll know-
situation
I
where
don't
he's
like
having a
Wham.
kid.
You'll
so
know
I
the
don't
song,
know.
and he's like, if my best isn't good enough, how could it be good enough for two?
Oh,
Won't you tell me why? Oh, I forgot the name of the song. I'll come back to you. I'll keep an eye on it.
So,
oh, keep an eye on it. There we go.
but using like
Everything She Wants.
okay,
Good
I like
song.
Faith.
thanks for that.
Faith. That wasn't Wham though. It was George Michael.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apples and oranges, isn't it?
No.
Who was the other one in Wham?
Andrew Ridgely.
Who?
Andrew Ridgely was the
Oh,
one.
here
There
we
you
go.
go.
Number one.
So
fan
shut the
of it.
fuck up,
Charles
Tom.
Robinson.
We know who it is. He was a top boy. He made them songs.
Still alive?
I hope so.
Yeah,
Heart and Soul of Wham. Right there.
Heart and
that's-
Soul.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Wham. The last living member.
but Charles Robinson
Freedom. Good song.
loved loved Wham.
Good.
But
I
also,
love Wham.
Yeah, he's still
That
going.
was, that's it for this week's
So,
episode.
yeah. Thanks for listening. Tune in next week.
Yeah, he's still going. They do a lot of kind of cross stuff with Charlotte Flair, obviously the daughter of Ric Flair.
Yeah.
And when they have, I think he might have refereed on the Starcades pay-per-view a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Not this one, but I'm sure they had something with him coming out with Rick, and they had some big thing about him
Okay.
being there anyway. Classic WCW.
I like that though. I like that you've got like a a heel that's got his own referee.
Oh, it was brilliant.
I think that's such
the
a
whole
good
arc
angle,
was
isn't
like everybody in the crowd could see how crooked this guy was.
Yeah.
But for some reason, WCW top brass
Oh,
was
wow.
like,
Still
it's fine,
going.
he's all right. And at one point, he even came out in a robe with Rick.
That's
Yeah,
and
he
it
was
just
strutted,
like-
didn't he, as well? Like,
the
strutted in the
fans
ring
were
with him.
Mental.
That's so good.
Honestly,
Good heat, though.
Yeah.
Great
What
heat.
good heat.
He's a good
So,
referee
so
as well,
good.
Lil
Yeah.
Nitch. I'll never
so
forget Lil Nitch running down the ramp to make the
Mate.
pin for, was it Shawn Michaels?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Undertaker at WrestleMania.
And he just runs and
Just
runs
slides.
and
I
runs.
just remember
the
seeing the Chariots of Fire edit of him just legging it
Because
down
it was
that
a really
ramp.
long
It was a
runway,
huge ramp, and
wasn't
he's
it?
just sprinting down the ramp as fast as
Powerful
he could.
stuff.
Great stuff. Speaking of Charles Robinson, I was just thinking of referees, and they are normally there to just count the pin, and 9 times out, well, at least in the 90s, probably maybe 80s as well, they were there to count the 3, and no matter what, they would count the 3.
Yeah.
They didn't know the results of the
Yeah,
match. They
yeah.
might have known the ends of the match, but they were never to pull the hand at the last second because
Give away the gig.
because it give away that it's not legit. One kind of standout moment of that recently was when Neville was still in WWE against Chris Jericho, and he
Yeah.
broke his ankle.
Yeah, that was Charles
Um,
Robinson, yeah.
So that was Lil
Yeah,
Nitch in the ring,
Yeah.
and Jericho, realised he was hurt, and Neville told him he was hurt, so he rolled him up for a pin, and Lil Nitch was started the count, and then got to the 3 count and pulled his arm.
Yeah.
Jericho had him on his podcast, and he said that he didn't pull the pin. He thought he saw his shoulder up,
Right.
so he stopped the count, and then that's Jericho got up and shouted at him and said he's hurt, and he shoved him into the corner, and then he had
Tried
to
to
call
get
the
himself
match off,
disqualified,
which he
didn't
did.
he?
Yeah.
So Charles Robinson called the match off because he got shoved by Chris Jericho, and then he got into a massive spat in the corner. He's shouting
Yeah.
at him, and then apparently Nate was like, "You don't fucking put your hands on me," and shouting back at him in legit heat. Didn't realise that something had gone wrong,
Yeah.
and then realised that Neville had
I
broken his
think
ankle.
he'd broken it before, but it was the same one, and
It was a
done
baseball
again.
slide, and he just
Yeah,
he just
didn't-
bent it and it broke.
It's such a difficult position because, if a wrestler makes a mistake on a big stage, it's kind of well, the stuff they're doing, you could easily make a mistake doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Whereas if a referee makes a mistake, it becomes really glaring, and you are valuable to the company, but it's someone that Vince McMahon could just go, get rid of him. He's done. He's had his day.
You're not a person. You're just a shirt.
You are.
You're just a
You're
faceless
shirt.
person.
They
that
used to be,
Anyone
didn't they?
can replace that.
Yeah.
There has been a few, wasn't it? Hell in a Cell this year when Mick Foley counted to 3, and then when no, I didn't mean to, and just stopped and
Yeah,
kind of
I
had to
mean,
explain it away.
At this point, Mick Foley, God bless him. It's a good thing he can still count to 3 with the amount of damage his brain's gone through.
Been through,
But,
been through a lot, Annie, bless
I
him.
mean, it's a big spot to put people in, and you often used to get that back in the day with the special referee matches. You could really see the wide berth of skill between a full-time referee and just a talent with a shirt on.
Yeah.
That being said, Austin was always a really good referee.
Yeah.
The only gripe I had was when he took that ref bump, and by ref bump, it's a kind of a bit of a gimmick in the
Feather
industry.
touching it and
Yeah,
just down
a
and
referee
that's
gets
it.
hit by a feather, they go down, and
Yeah.
all sorts of shenanigans happen.
Yeah.
But when it happens to Austin, you're like, he
You're
just
supposed
jumped
to
back
be
up.
a badass, yeah.
Yeah, but you let that kind of go over you. But you
Yeah.
could see that Austin was one of the guys where he's probably refereed matches when he was younger coming up, because that was just a thing to break into the business with.
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
guys.
Yeah,
You'd referee, you'd
Shane
you'd go on
McMahon
the
used to be a
ropes.
referee back in the day.
He did,
Early
yeah.
90s
So
WWF.
and again, one story that I've not. Teddy Long did a U-Shoot interview years and years ago because he used to be a referee.
Yeah.
Back
Good
in
one
the
as
back
well.
in the
Remember,
days.
yeah.
Good one.
And
On
some-
SmackDown, I think he was on it.
Something where I think he made his debut at the '99 Royal Rumble. Off the top of my head, as a referee, he made his debut, and I don't think he fucked up the count. I think he counted the 3, which he's meant to do.
Yeah.
But the person didn't kick out. It wasn't meant to happen.
Right.
But Teddy Hart was saying that you would get bonuses from WWF at the time if you just counted the 3 like you were meant to do.
Just called it
Call
as
it
if it was
call
an
it
actual match,
as it was
yeah?
legit.
Okay.
Apparently, if you went through with it, I think I'm remembering it right. I'm not seeing it now. I'll have to look it up. But yeah, apparently, if you called it like you were meant to, you would get bonuses no matter if it went wrong or not from the guys in the back because they wanted it to be legit. And they wanted it to look real.
Yeah.
And apparently, he got huge heat from the wrestlers that were in the ring because he messed it up. Well, he didn't mess it up, but the wrestlers messed it up. But they were saying you should have pulled your arm and you should have made
Yeah.
something up.
What-
And he
what
was
are you
like,
gonna
I'm
do?
just calling the
Because, I
count
mean,
like I meant to.
Like you say, a pull of the arm is the most obvious giveaway. That wait, what's happening here?
Yeah.
And then, I mean,
And it happens every so
Or the
often.
real
Like, you'll see it
slow
every
down.
so often.
It
where
happened
they-
this year in Evolution with Mickey James. Alicia Fox was supposed to break the pin, and
Yeah,
she was
she
just
just wasn't
really.
there,
And
yeah.
you can see, you can see Mickie James like just looking at her, and she just shouts, "Fuck's sake,
Yeah.
like, get in here!"
Yeah.
It happens every so often. It's interesting though to see it, like, because it's weird. Some of the referees just seem to count it like they're meant to count it, and then some don't. Almost some do pull counts.
There was a good video the other week of Cody Rhodes telling a story of a 6-man tag match that he was in WWE, and it was him, Ted DiBiase Jr. I can't remember the other person, and they were going against I think something like Batista and like Daniel Bryan or somebody else. Just really normal, innocuous match. Nothing really happening. All the guys are still on their apron, so it's nowhere near the finish because normally they're all someone's out of ringside, someone's laid out or whatever.
Yeah.
They're all literally just all sort of stood there watching, waiting to come in, and someone rolls Ted DiBiase Jr. up, and he doesn't kick out in time, and the ref counts 3, and they all just like, and then he's like, "That's it, match is over, you've lost,"
done. Yeah.
and everyone's just sort of like, "Oh,
Oops.
well, now what do we do?"
Surely you just start a brawl.
Well,
Like, surely that's got to be the get out. Of
I think
jail
it's
They just
always
all-
it's the answer, isn't
start
it?
a
Yeah.
brawl.
They just all walked off. They just all kind of went, "Oh right, that's it then." But
Good match.
the kind of the point from the story was that they got back into Gorilla, and Vince McMahon stood there, and he stands up and takes his headphones off, and they're all like, "Oh god, oh god, oh god, what's going to happen here?" And Ted DiBiase just bursts through. He was being pinned, and just goes, "He was trying to fuck on me." As in he's trying to fuck me over.
Yeah.
And he shouted it in such a weird way that Vince McMahon just put his headphones on and just sat back down again and like, "Get in the locker room."
I can't handle these boys. They're not even worth my time.
Do you remember? I think Summer Rae did a story about something like that where she messed up something ages ago when she was first starting out. When she was with The Miz at some point.
Summer Rae. When she, I
Maybe
would,
not.
honestly, I
Maybe.
wouldn't. I wasn't
I think
watching
she
around
was
the
meant to
time
like
first
she was
got
meant to
called
jump onto the apron and like stop a count or something like that, and she wasn't either in time or she wasn't on time. But apparently, like she'd messed it up, and she got down. She was like, "Oh my god, what have I done? Like, I'm over. It's over. I'm first like week in the business. I'm already done." She went to the back, and Vince was there. And he's like, "I loved it. It was amazing." Like, apparently, like he loved the controversy that had happened, and apparently, like he put her over. And then she got like a big push, and he was just saying like it's kind of crazy that Vince she was just lucky that Vince thought it was
sometimes
cool.
things just work.
Yeah.
One of the earlier WrestleManias with Hogan against Sid Justice.
Oh, is this the?
When the leg drop, obviously Hulk's finish of the leg drop is just untouchable. Like you can't kick out that; it's protected, so no one kicks out of it. And it was supposed to be a run-in by
Papa
Shango, and he was so late that Sid Justice just kicked out, and everyone was more like, "Oh my god, he's kicked out this leg drop," because I had no
You had
choice
to,
because
Yeah.
because Papa Shango's about 30 yards
I
away,
love that
and
video.
he's just
Him just
jogging
like logging around.
nothing's happened.
Yeah, he had no choice to do it.
Crazy.
So good.
The interesting thing, though, is that after the breakup of the first band, the Executive, George Michael and Andrew Ridgely, formed their new duo act Wham in 1981. 81. Long time
81,
that, weren't it,
long
Wham?
time,
Been
yeah.
around for quite a while.
It's a long time ago,
Make
that.
It Big, got popular in the US because of MTV.
Which leads on to WrestleMania, Cyndi Lauper,
Absolutely.
Rock and Wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It's all
Wham,
linked.
I mean, arguably,
Could have been involved, couldn't they?
Could have probably at some
Yeah.
point.
Could have been
very
involved.
important in the
One of my
history of
favourite ever referee moments involved. I forgot the wrestler's name. He was called. It sounded like Nikolai Volkov, but it wasn't Nikolai Volkov.
Oh, was it?
Okay. Karloff or something.
no,
I think I know what you mean.
Oh,
How long are we talking?
a long time ago.
Okay.
Maybe like WCW days.
Ivan Koloff.
Right, okay.
No, it was. Let me try and find it. I think his name was Nikita something.
Nikita Koloff.
Nikita
It was
Koloff or
Ivan and-
Volov.
it was
Nikita
Ivan and
Volov. or
Nikita
something.
Koloff.
Yeah.
So there's a video
Yeah.
somewhere of Ric Flair against Nikita Koloff, whatever his name is, and Ric Flair gives him a suplex, and when Nikita Volov lands, his dick falls out of his singlet. So and the referee just like trundles over and just puts his dick back in his singlet, and the match just carries on. It is incredible.
He's the other one.
It's-
That's going above and beyond for your
It's
job.
such
innit?
a, yeah, absolutely. Like there's, I think one of
Can you
the, one
imagine
of
if
the,
he like went, "I'll just pop that away"?
one of the top things, or like the top things, like the comments at the time was the things they don't tell you in wrestling school. You might have to put dicks away in wrestlers' singlets.
On that note, there's the one where CM Punk shits himself.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
And the
it
referee
is.
just scoops it up with his hands and just throws it out the ring.
Absolutely.
He's picking up
Yeah.
a little bit of human shit and just winging it out the ring
Yeah.
like a
That's
And
it,
it-
I guess like
pond.
Daniel. That's against like Dean Ambrose or something, wasn't it? I think that match.
Yeah, because he gives him like a high back body drop.
He tells the story of it
Lands.
on the Out of
Colt Cabana.
So
Yeah,
it was.
wrestling.
So it was
Podcast,
referee Tommy Young in
Tommy Young.
the main event of Starrcade 1986.
Bloody hell.
Funny that
Wow.
one of the top comments is if Ric Flair would have known his dick was out, he'd have also got his out as well. Which makes me
You're
laugh.
upstaging me,
You're
son.
not getting over me. You know, that's
Yeah.
that's just the lengths that some referees have to go to keep things in order. It
Crazy.
just makes me laugh.
On a slightly sadder note,
Oh, go on.
I don't
Mecca's
know, I didn't have
depressed.
to bring it down, but it's important in the history of referees. So Gorilla Monsoon's son was actually a referee.
Yeah, Joey
Yeah.
Manella.
And he actually died in a car crash in '94.
Yeah, he did.
Which is really sad, you know, because they used to do that whole bit where whenever he was refereeing a match, they'd have Bobby the Brain Heenan just rinse on him,
Yeah.
and just call him a moron and say the referee's an idiot, and that a lot of that "Will you stop" would come from that.
Will you stop?
Which was pretty cool, but kind of moving on from the one dead referee to another who continually tried to kill himself throughout the kind of mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Tim White's
Tim
lunchtime
White.
suicides.
What an awful,
awful angle.
in this day and age.
Awful.
That is not acceptable for television.
horrible,
Not
isn't it?
really.
It's awful.
Horrible.
Awful.
But
I've even heard them talking about that on like the Bruce Pritchard podcast, where he's just like, whoa,
It was
what were we
it was
thinking?
absolutely
thinking about
crazy
it?
What an
that they didn't
awful
think
thing
of
to
that.
do. There was that midnight, that kind of sort of
There's just
attitude
no
era
holds
had
barred,
just
wasn't it?
finished,
Like,
weren't
It
it?
was
And
ruthless
then
aggression.
yeah, just lost it all, didn't it? Really,
Yeah.
lost its way a bit, and
It
it
all
was
went a
just
bit Pete Tong, didn't
it was
really?
almost like
Match-wise.
desperate for ratings because they'd just come out of the whole, you know, we bought WCW and ECW was just about to kind of come aboard and that had folded. So there's no competition.
No.
Yeah.
So you're just creating these
Do what you
stupid
want.
things,
Yeah.
and you can do what you want just because there's no competition, so we've got
No
no one
to
to
beat
compete
you.
against. So we don't have to have
Yeah.
actually any good in-ring stuff or any great sort of storylines. We can just do stupid
It's
stuff.
pretty funny.
Yeah,
But
I'm
pretty
s-
bad as well.
Awful.
He used to be
Awful.
Andre's kind of. I'm not bodyguard, but Andre's kind of guy who took him around.
Kinda like handler,
like
yeah.
his handler, yeah.
Yeah, he
no,
did,
apparently
yeah. He
they were
was.
good
Yeah.
mates.
It's quite. I hate that the documentary about Andre when he just like gets really upset.
Oh yeah, you could tell he absolutely loved the bloke.
Yeah, he adored him.
But from Monsoon's son, Tony Chimmel actually named his kids after him.
Did
Did
he?
he?
Joey.
That's nice.
Joey Manella. No,
Yeah,
Joey.
yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
named
pretty
his kid
good.
Joey, which is nice.
There's there's a lot of referees that that stand out. One for me that I don't know if you guys know of is a guy called Rick Knox, who's the senior referee for PWG, who over the years has been involved in like numerous storylines involving certain wrestlers. And the crowd, I mean, it used to be in Reseda at the time, that tiny little sweat box of like 400 people, where there's a crowd just loved Rick Knox.
Can't
Like he
jump
was,
off the top ropes you hit the ceiling.
yeah, pretty much. But every so often, like he'd get involved in certain storylines to the point where he was always impartial in the counts that he did and stuff like that. But he would actively like get involved in certain matches and things. So in a like I can't remember what year it was, probably like late 2009, maybe like early 2010s. There's like a feud against the Young Bucks, which were like big heels at the time, and I think maybe it was a Super Smash Brothers, Evil Uno and his partner, I forgot his name, where they would always beat on Rick Knox. So Rick Knox would like in big matches would bring a chair and just like beat the shit out of the Bucks, and then Evil Uno would make a pin and he'd still just count it the exact same amount of time, and if he kicked out, he'd kick out, and he was always impartial. But he'd also get like he'd do crazy spots. So there's a ladder match between the Super Smashers and the Young Bucks, where the Bucks are on the outside and the Super Smashers are about to like do a tope over the top, and they're running towards to bounce off the ropes, and Rick Knox stops them both. And they like look at him, and then he runs off the ropes and topes over the top onto the guys. And he's like an old man, like he's an oldish man with like a bald head, really skinny and scrawny. You just never expect him to do anything like it, and he always gets involved. And it's just something about him that like he always stands out as a wicked referee. But he also referees Lucha Underground as well.
Oh, cool.
And he gets involved in that kind of stuff. But yeah, just stuff like that. Like
There's been quite a few kind of iconic refs.
Always,
over the
like, there's a
time,
lot, and
especially the Hebners in
Yeah, of
WWE.
course.
You know?
I mean, they're the most famous.
they are the most
referees
probably
of all
referees of all time.
Yeah.
But again, like there's just giving referees a bit of personality is just so much. It adds so much to
The
matches.
one thing I used to love about Earl Hebner, and he only really did it at like a WrestleMania main event. I think he might have done it for the Shawn Michaels Bret Hart Iron Man match, where like they get to, you know, they're both like exhausted. They've had this really sort of intense match, and the refs he's had a few ref bumps and stuff, and he always used he always used to count the pin really slow.
Yeah.
And he was so like dramatic.
I'm at the edge of the seat waiting
It was
for the
great.
three. Yeah,
it was
wicked.
great, and he was so like the way he used to
that
do
too
it.
much anymore, do
I don't think I've ever seen anybody.
None of the
else
referees have
really
any.
do
None
it.
of the referees have any personality anymore. They're all
Well,
just referees.
The
They're
only
just
ones
there
that
to
are
be
really
referees.
left over are probably like Charles Robinson and Mike Chioda are the only ones.
Yeah.
I was read something today. Chioda started in like it might have been 81 or even 89.
Won't
something.
surprise me.
Do you remember when Nick Patrick and Earl Hebner had a match?
They did at the
Alliance
Invasion.
Invasion
Yeah,
match,
yeah.
and it was just the two
Awful.
of them rolling around in the
rough.
ring,
Not
punching
even-
each other.
Not even worth
But,
speaking about.
I mean,
What was it? Thing he used to say, Jim Cornette, when he came into like the Battle Royal gimmick Battle Royal thing, and he said to Bruce Pritchard because he was in it as Brother Love, and he says, "Right, we'll not get involved in anything. Me and you just go in the corner and just throw potatoes at each other." It was such a good reference for just throwing hands for no reason,
Wicked.
just throwing potatoes at each other.
So good.
Another
Brilliant.
thing I miss with the referees is when you'd get a big match and they'd bring the two guys together and explain the rules, like boxing referees.
Yeah.
And they'd always say like senior referee Nick Patrick or senior
Yeah,
referee Earl Hebner, and they'd hold the belt up and it'd be like, it would just add that legitimacy to them.
Yeah.
They'd
I
come out
miss
from the
that
main
as
event,
senior.
I
So
wish
like
they'd do
again,
it.
PWG had
They
a
did it
guy.
all in.
Yeah, they did. I
Wicked.
forgot the guy's name. He's called that. He's the junior referee in PWG.
Okay.
And people just hate him. Like everybody just hates him. Like for no, I don't think there's a real reason behind it.
Chioda's like the senior referee in WWE.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Just because the amount of time he's been there.
yeah. We got the first female referee in NXT.
They
Jessica
do.
Carr.
She's good as well.
Yeah, she's
She's
really
alright.
good.
She's
Holds
a
it
bit
down.
pantomime.
She
for me,
pulls some
personally.
right faces.
Little bit.
When I think it was the might have been the takeover with Shayna Baszler and Kairi Sane, and they've got her in like there's like a submission kind of hold on one of them, and she's like pulling these faces like,
Wasn't
are
it,
you gonna tap or you not? It might have been Evolution.
Yeah, it was
actually.
Evolution, I
Yeah, it
think,
was
yeah.
Evolution. Actually. And she's just pulling these weird faces like, are you
We've
gonna
also
tap? Are you
got,
not gonna tap? Like, it's pretty good.
Also got Drake Wirtz
In
in
NXT,
NXT as a
yeah.
referee.
Drake's
He used to
good.
be Drake Younger,
Yeah.
famous
And-
deathmatch
and
wrestler.
alcoholic as well.
Wasn't alcoholic at one point.
He might not
Used
be
to be Drake
anymore.
Younger and an alcoholic. No, he's not anymore.
He's a
Neither of
born
those
again
people
Christian.
now.
Yeah, born
A
again
lot of
Christian
kids.
clean.
Very nice man.
Yeah.
But yeah, he used to be
Lovely
like a
fella.
very crazy deathmatch wrestler,
Oh, yeah.
which is just funny to see him now. Like, yeah, just refereeing NXT matches. It's really
Yeah.
quite hilarious. And then you again, like you see him take a ref bump, and it's like I've seen you go through like 8 panes of glass into
Yeah.
a like
Get
barbed
back up
wire
with
thing and get up and kick out at 2. And,
Yeah.
like, you get shoved into by a different guy, and it's like, why are you on
Bring
the
it
floor,
down.
Drake?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Gotta earn a
That's
living,
all part
don't
of it though. The ref bump thing is just all.
It's part and
there to
parcel
add
of
the
the thing.
drama in it.
But again, it works well sometimes. Other times I hate it. Like at the recent show, was it what's just been gone Survivor Series?
Yeah.
The Daniel Bryan Brock Lesnar match
Ugh.
where Kyoto just
Yeah,
like
took a knock.
looks around, and then you see him not in position, and he just runs up to the side of Brock Lesnar where he'd never stand
Yeah,
normally
yeah.
ever at
It's
any
such a
point.
waste, 'cause
He
you've got-
stands like bang next to him. He gets the F5, just hits him, and he just falls to the floor. And it's like, come on, man.
You've got Paul Heyman who could have just whipped him out.
You
the
can do
ring and hit him
anything,
with
anything,
something like
anything
yeah.
other than that. Like for every other F5 he hits, he's pretty much in the corner watching the action.
Yeah.
And then just for that one, for some reason, he
Yeah.
stands bang underneath Brock Lesnar and gets hit by it. But there's perfect ones. Every so often you'll get a brilliant ref bump that you don't see coming.
There was a referee that did. So they've done the kind of ring collapse thing 3 times now in WWE with Big Show involved in every one of
Yeah.
them. And probably the best ref bump one was the recent one with Strowman, where because he legitimately goes to kind of steady himself on the rope, but obviously it's all
Just
collapsed
collapses
and he
in,
just
yeah.
falls out the back of the ring.
I like the first one. Was it against Brock?
Show and
Or
Lesnar.
was it
Big Show and
Big Show and Lesnar? Where the ref
Yeah.
goes down and then he gets up and he just looks so confused as to
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
happening. He's like hot hands on his head, just kind of staring at the ring.
It's great that one because he kind of bounces twice.
Yeah, he
because
does.
he goes in
Yeah.
one
Goes
corner
go,
and he bounces
go,
on and he
bounces
goes
on
again.
again,
And
yeah.
it's
So
great,
good.
that.
Brilliant. It's wicked. Like I'd love to be a referee.
Do
I
you
think it'd be,
remember,
I
like,
think it'd be so interesting.
It would be
so
good.
interesting. Just be like in the ring and not actually get like competing, but just watching it happen
Well,
from
you
that
are
kind of vantage point.
You're more involved than what people would think you are.
Oh yeah.
Like we'll talk about Evolution pay-per-view again, but the Charlotte and Becky match where Becky's in like figure 4 through the ladders and she's supposed to like grab a chair and hit her and it's nowhere near her and you just see Mike Chioda just shooing this chair ever
Shooing
so
it forward.
slightly, a little bit nearer, and then at the end of the match when she puts Charlotte through the table to the outside, you can just see Mike Chioda just holding on to Becky Lynch so she doesn't fall forward with her hand. And
it's
like,
wicked.
it's great. Like, some people will look at that and go, "Oh, rubbish, he's helping him," but it's like brilliant. Like that's
What
like
that voice?
inside the
What
kind
was that
of.
voice?
It's
It's like inside it all.
It's misdirection, isn't it? Because in the moment of watching that match, like I watched a clip earlier. Someone had posted on Reddit with an old NWO angle where Shawn Michaels goes to kick the Big Show, and I'd seen that clip about 1 million times, but someone had put the sweet chin music so powerful, Big Show's chin's magnetically drawn to it, and like you see it just before he kicks, Big Show just turns to him and leans his face towards him. But I've seen that clip 1 million times and never noticed it until someone pointed it out. I'm too busy watching.
It's like
the other things.
It's like
turns his head.
One of the SmackDown episodes were like just there's about 8,000 different like top quality superstars in the ring, all taking the finishes from each other. There's a chair in the ring, and like Undertaker takes a bump, and then Angle does a slam and does an angle slam to somebody.
Slam on Big Show.
On Big Show, and you just see Undertaker grab the chair with his leg and just move it out of the way so he doesn't land on it, and it's just things like that you never notice. It would normally that would be a referee that would do that to keep the ring kind of empty and clear and stuff like that. But you don't notice it until you look back and watch it because you're in the moment of it all.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sort of recent changes where obviously they don't bleed as much anymore, but sometimes it does happen, and even when they have bladed, even though they're not supposed to, the referees pulling the gloves on makes it seem a bit more
legit.
They do it in boxing. I mean, they have gloves on from the beginning in boxing a lot of the time anyway.
Yeah.
But it's these little things that I think in Vince's mind, because he's kind of half Hollywood, and there's a lot of things that he'll cut out because he feels it's not beneficial to the production, like time limits and weights getting announced and little things that you'd see in a professional sport, because you need to know the fairness of it all.
Yeah.
That sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. There's no consistency, but stuff like that where it's like you have to do it because of bloodborne diseases and stuff like that. You have to wear your gloves. It's like one of those little accidental things that just makes everything seem a lot more real. As soon as a ref's got them gloves out, you're like, oh sweet, now the real stuff's kicking off. This is wicked.
It makes it feel like almost a bit more of like a UFC style fight or something like that.
Yeah.
I do like that. There's a few little signals that they do as well that we were talking about earlier. Like the sort of probably the most famous one is the cross when someone's legitimately injured, but they've used it recently.
Crying wolf on that.
Yeah, and like
they know when they're going to use it. So they'll if there's a match set up where they're going to throw a fake cross up, they'll have a separate like signal that's a legit injury.
Yeah.
So they'll before the match they'll be like, right, this is going to happen at this time, throw the X up, but if anything else happens that's not meant to happen, do this. And then you know that it's, and they never have to use it because 9 times out of 10 nothing goes wrong, but they at least have something that they can show somebody that it's legitimately somebody's hurt.
First time I ever saw
mic'd up nowadays anyway.
9 times out of 10 they've got a mic.
First time I ever saw the referee putting the cross up was, I think it was Diesel, and his knee had blown out, or he might have been Kevin Nash at the time, but his knee had blown out and he's in the corner ring, and Earl Hebner just like throws the cross up, and I'm like, is that when he gets tags into the match? He just immediately blows. Yeah, he goes and he just goes on the ground and he just gone again.
Classic Kevin Nash.
I remember watching it and just thinking, what's that mean? What's that mean?
What's
What's he doing? And then then it's like, that's what they must do when there's a legitimate injury.
There's a lot of different ones, like they squeeze the hand after a big move. They'll go over and like grab the wrestler's hand, and if they squeeze back, they know they're okay.
They're okay. Yeah.
There's just little things like that. Again, if you know about them, you'll see them all the time because they happen every match in every kind of situation.
Yeah.
But
I kind of look out for it now. After
it's kind of fun to look at.
Kind of mix, not to like think, oh, it's a great thing to see, or it's like, but for me to go, no, they're all right.
Yeah,
they're all right.
Okay.
That's fine.
No, it's wicked. There's cool stuff like that.
I read something earlier about how when there is a bump like that, the ref goes to the more senior wrestler first, who then calls the next spot, and then he goes to check on the other guy and tells him
what it is.
So this is what's going to happen next.
It's clever.
You do this.
It's very, very clever. It's very drawn out. It's probably a very intricate job that you wouldn't notice normally if you're just watching it as a fan.
Well, there's things like there's timings that's involved. There's all sorts of stuff.
It's
not
crazy
just
stuff.
It's not
again, and then
just refereeing,
the referee moves it along. So there's been a few instances where matches people just get carried away themselves in the ring, and it's always the referee's job to be telling them,
back in.
let's go home now, let's go to the finish, let's get it sorted. So they got a massive weight on the shoulders, because when you're on live TV, you've only got a certain amount of time, and then if you go over that, you have to start getting charged out the arse however much
and
you
even
get
in
charged.
some of the matches where they sometimes don't, to make it look a bit more of a shock, they don't tell the ref exactly everything that's going to happen.
I don't think they tell the referee any finishes anymore.
Well,
I don't think they do.
We were talking about the Undertaker versus Brock match, which was the main one that like ended the streak, where
spoilers.
It could have kind of gone wrong if the referee would have not counted to 3 to end the match.
If he'd
have pulled his hand away and nothing would have happened,
it'd have killed it.
It'd have killed the whole match. But apparently it was until like Brock picked Undertaker up and then said to the ref, "This is the finish."
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Right, I'll just count and do whatever happens."
Yeah.
And if he doesn't
I
kick
think
out,
I think he got told by Vince, like, no matter what happens, no matter what move, if it's like a arm drag and somebody goes for a cover, if you count the three, like, just do it, just don't.
But
even think
imagine
about
that,
it.
like, because the referee was a guy called Chad Patton, not very old.
No.
But imagine you're refereeing in a main event at WrestleMania, and you might have just ended one of the biggest sort of storyline streaks. In
but again,
that
it's
kind
not your
of
fault.
entertainment.
It's not your.
No,
it's not.
But
Your
can you imagine that thinking that
That
in my
pressure
mind, I'd be
around.
like,
You'd feel bad.
"Oh my god!"
Yeah,
what have I
you'd
done?
feel
What have I
rough
done?
for it. But again, not your thing to worry about. What you have to worry about is finishing the match and make sure the two guys in the ring are okay.
Yeah.
Like, you ain't got to worry about if somebody kicks out or not. That's not part of your job. That's their job to do that. But then again, there's been every so often where I forgot which match it was. It was probably not. I don't think it was WWE. There's an indie match somewhere where somebody gets genuinely knocked out, like legitimately just knocked out on the floor, and the referee counts 2 and then pulls his hand as if to be like, "Oh, he kicked out." And then so the guy on the top, like the guy that's covering him, gets up and looks at him on the floor, and this guy's like arms and jaw locked, obviously knocked out. And the guy, the ref was like, "Well, what do I do now?" Like, the ref was like, "He's on the floor, obviously knocked out, and you just stopped the pin." And you can just tell the referee knows he's fucked up, and they just don't know what to do about it. So he goes for the cover again, and then he counts to 3, and it's like, well, what just happened? Like, it's just really, really weird.
We kind of saw it this year with Brie Bella kicking Liv Morgan in the face and knocking her out, and pinned her, and then the ref just stopped, and then Brie Bella kind of like picked her up and dragged her over to the corner and tagged her in.
With a match
and
that inconsequential, you'd think they'd just go, "I'm sorry, I'm just going to call the 3." It doesn't really matter.
They did play on that storyline quite well, actually, because they did.
Oh, they played it really.
It
well.
was really good. Like a few weeks
didn't
later, when like Liv Morgan's like they had another match and Liv Morgan was like straight in for a beating her up.
Yeah.
I thought it was really like.
No,
I'm glad they didn't just ignore it and just think.
If it happens, you got to use it, haven't you?
Yeah.
It's like no real choice.
Yeah, I would hate to finish this episode without a quick shout out to Joel from Progress. He's a fantastic
told Joel,
referee.
good referee.
Progress, WWE ref as well.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
now he is, isn't he?
There's a lot of British referees that are mint. There's like obviously there's Joel, there's Chris Roberts, who again like the guy.
Fuck that guy.
Why does he,
we're not talking about him.
But he's a good referee.
He's great.
Fuck that guy. Nah, mate, he is a great referee. He's fantastic.
But again, like in Progress, he just has the heel kind of persona. No, I don't know why. I don't know where it comes from. But whenever he comes to the ring, he just gets booed constantly.
But it's he loves it.
But he feeds off it.
It's
and
part of it, innit?
Yeah, it's part of the parcel.
Yeah,
one thing, just because I've watched it about 200 times on loop of the screen in front of me,
is
if you ever get chance, just Google Jack Doan ring slide.
Yeah, it's
one of the most funniest things you've ever seen.
So and there's also one, I forgot who it is, the cartwheel one. Somebody cartwheels into a cover, which is fucking brilliant. And then there's another one that happened at an NXT show. It might have been Drake actually. It's the Mustache Mountain versus Undisputed Era match.
Oh, that dive.
And he like jumps over all the guys and then
Great
lands into the cover and counts the 3. And he's like, no matter what you got to do to get the 3, you got to get the 3. Because again, you've got to be in position, so you've got to be at the guy's face, like the guy that's on the floor that's getting pinned. You have to be at his head.
I've seen it on TV for like WWE matches. And I've seen it live at a Progress match where the referee jumped over and landed that hard that you think that's the one.
Yeah.
So they kind of count to
kick out early
3, or they just count to 2, but everyone thinks it's 3, and then
count.
they count again and they kick out, and you're like, and everyone's just a little bit. I don't know what's happening. But
no, so and I like that the commentators will sometimes pick up on it. So like if they got to go to a cover fast and they can't get to the place they need to be, the commentators will be like, "Oh, referee's out of position. Like what's going to happen?" Because you're supposedly meant to be on the guy's receiving end, so he can see when the third count's
It's like
down.
when they've not quite timed the finisher well, and the commentator's like, "Oh, he didn't get all of it. He didn't get all of it."
It's kind of the same thing. As I said, there's wicked. I wish in WWE they like near falls they would hit the mat the 3rd time. And I always bring it back to PWG. It's my favourite promotion. But again, if like a major move happens, the referee will count the 3rd count, but the guy will kick out as he hits the mat.
Right.
So like he'll hit the mat for the 3rd count, and the guy will kick out, and the referee will be like, "No, that was 2. That was 2. He kicked up just as I hit the mat." And then all the crowd are like, "That was 3. Like you hit the mat," and he's like, "No, he got his arm up just as I hit the 3rd count."
I guess that's good because that's not like.
But it never happens.
The referee slowing his count out.
No, it's always
like
the same consistent count, and he hit the mat the 3rd time, but he still kicks out of it. But WWE never do that.
No, there's a couple of them in WWE where you can see them slow.
They do every so often, like the 3rd
There's
one
or 2 that do it where as they come down with the same speed, but then they just tuck their hand underneath
and
they
took
kind of
roll
roll
and the shoulder,
and they kind of.
You can always see it coming.
You can, but they kind of like get up as if to like, bloody hell, that
What
was close.
happened? Yeah.
Do you
but
remember
close.
when like finishes like that, like you say, where the 3 does get hit, then someone kicks out and the referee calls it? Back in old WWF, it always used to be like, oh, then the president Jack Tunney would review the footage and then go to the referee. But they never, like, once it's been 3, it's as if like the higher ups don't.
No matter what, if you hit the third count,
like,
it's over.
the wrestlers don't go and go, oh, last week and you overturn the decision, I want a rematch, and it's like,
always
no
just
decisions
They've
ever
touched
get,
on that recently.
It used to happen every so often. Like I remember John Cena once winning a match against maybe the Great Khali years ago, and his feet were underneath the ropes, which again is meant to be a rope break. You don't have to be touching the ropes, but if your feet are under ropes, then it's a rope break.
Yeah.
And he beat Khali, and I think it was always planned for him to go over.
He's so long, wasn't
But
it?
because then his legs were under the rope, and then they reviewed the footage on Raw the next night, and they like circled on it and zoomed in, and it was like it was like kind of blown up, and they're like, look, it's not a third
That's good
count.
because that's like we said before. That's a mistake that's probably happened in the match.
Yeah.
That they've then thought, right, let's just run with this.
Yeah.
They did it. I think it might have been this year. It might have been late last year with Charlotte versus Bayley, and Bayley had rolled Charlotte up, and the referee counted to 3, and then Charlotte had just kicked out
of it.
and it was like she kicked out, or the shoulder wasn't down, and then they kind of made a thing about it. Like
was,
I've had that struck off because it didn't count and all that.
The last real referee involvement I can think of was the authority angle, where not Mike Chioda. I forgot the guy's name, but they bought him out, the referee.
Yeah,
Was it the Survivor Series match where he didn't count the pin or something like that, or they bought him out somehow?
Yeah.
And then in the next match, he was the referee. Was like Randy Orton against Daniel Bryan, and then he was the referee, and everybody was like, "Oh, well, it's obviously not going to win because he's been paid off by the authority." And that was really interesting because they'd not done it in years, and it's the first real time they'd actually like seen a referee have a bit of personality again. But it just seems to kind of disappear again.
When
Really,
they used to have like 40 referees that all come running down, they get decked,
run down,
like Shawn Michaels would like pick one up and like genuinely grab them by the scruff
like,
of
lob
the
him,
neck,
next one
and
and
they
go.
just keep running down, and you'd have bodies
We were
black
at,
and white everywhere.
Me and Ethan were at a Defiant show the other month.
Yeah.
And they did this thing where it was was it an unsanctioned match or it was a no DQ?
It was a no DQ.
It was a no DQ. It was a bit weird, weren't it?
It was a weird
like,
one.
The referee had took a bump, so another ref had come running into the ring, but then just checked on the ref, and we're all like going, "Well, count him then."
Do the pin.
But then he didn't, and he's like, and then they all started scrapping with the refs, and then some people from the back kind of came out and they prized them all apart and were like,
It was really
and you
weird.
just Ethan's just at the back going, "It's no DQ."
It was just annoying me. It was getting on my nerves. Like, you know that the match is meant to be. Just play it.
Like,
do it
yeah.
as it's meant to be.
We're
like
like,
that,
we're stood there going, we all know what's happening.
Yeah.
We're all in on it. We
not-
know this isn't real. Just let them have a go.
Yeah, I think on demand you can just hear me screaming that it's no DQ. Like, what's going on? Nobody's
like
listening
that,
to me.
madness.
No, yeah, nobody's
That
listening
video
to me.
you showed me a while ago, that really crap American indie where the two lads are like fighting by a door and some massive
No, that's
fella
in
a
England.
chair.
That's in England, yeah.
And he just goes, "It's false count anywhere, mate."
He's
The
like,
referee's going,
get back in the
ring.
get back, come on, one. He's like, get
False
back in the ring.
count
He's like, full count anyway, mate. And he's like, you what? He's like, it's a false count anyway. He's like, oh, I know, but I just want to kind of keep the action near the ring so I can kind of, keep an eye on it all. And he's like, oh, right, is it? Okay. He just carries on supping his water.
It looks such a sorry.
It's
show.
very. It makes me sad because
Yeah.
them two kids that are wrestling are just trying to make do the passion, and
Yeah.
I don't want to shit on them, but it's
I
so
know,
funny.
it's
It's
so
just like
cringy.
sad. And he's just like it's a false count anyway. It's just so funny.
Back in the ring.
No, referees are mint. I would love to be
They
a
are
referee.
mint.
If anybody wants to hire me as a referee, let me know.
Yeah. I'm thinking.
I don't know what I'd do. Don't know how I'd do it. I'd probably be awful at it, but
I think I'd like that.
I'd give it a go.
Because when you're growing up and you're into wrestling, you're like, I could be a wrestler. I
Yeah.
could do that. But now I'm like,
I don't want to be a
I
wrestler.
could just be a ref.
I'm
Actually.
really
That'd be
unhealthy.
pretty
Just
cool,
be a
you know?
referee instead.
I'm not very strong.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to shit on the guy, but that referee in Ring of Honor that's at least 45 stone, he keeps up with it well enough. I don't know his
He's
name.
a big boy.
He's a good wrestler. He's a good referee.
Great referee.
But
He's
and
like
again,
a senior ref as
and
well.
he's a big lad. Like I could definitely do it.
We saw him at
Probably not, but
Doncaster for the Ring of Honor show.
yeah,
he
we
was
did.
there. Wasn't
Yeah,
he?
he was a good lad.
It was great.
But yeah, that's referees. Look into some.
That's
Google
referees
them.
for you.
That's
That's
referees for you. No, yeah, thanks for listening, as per usual. If you want to catch more of us, go to @thelightspod on Twitter, Staring at the Lights on Instagram. We write for rgm.press, very good magazine. We write some articles for those guys as well. So yeah,
Subscribe
around.
on YouTube now as well.
Oh yeah, we've got a YouTube channel, Staring at the Lights. Search it, I guess.
Me and Ethan are getting lonely being the only subscribers.
Yeah,
so.
there's just two of us, so you
I don't
know.
even think I'm
There's three now
Um,
actually because RGM have.
Hey, we got 3 subscribers.
Thanks, RGM.
Yeah,
Well,
if you
I'll
use
subscribe
YouTube,
tonight.
give us a subscribe because all the episodes will be on there now as well. And yeah, we'll catch you on the flippity flop. Take care.